Derick Giwner back in the DRF studios with Matt Rose, and the dynamic duo is back again, and we're going to talk about some harness racing this weekend. It's a big weekend. We're going to talk about a race from Scioto and a race from Pocono, but there's also some great action at the Meadows. They have Sire Stakes finals for 3-year-olds on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we have the Sire Stakes finals in Pennsylvania for 2-year-olds at Harrah's, Philadelphia. We're going to go to Saturday at Scioto Downs with the $440,000 Jim Ewart Memorial. And what a great field this is, Matt.
I do say a common trend in the two races we're going to discuss, both aged pacers, which I'm kind of partial to. But yeah, this race, the Jim Ewart Memorial, $440,000 on the line at Scioto Downs, and what I believe is their closing night. Yeah, just a totally stacked field of 10. There are 9 and a 10 here, always a Prince and Hitman Hill, which will pop up eventually on the second screen of our entries. But yeah, a ton of horses need no introduction here. Jimmy Freight, nice 4-year-old. McWicked, Western Fame was, I believe, the Levy winner. This is the Plan, a speedy type for Yannick Gingras. Courtly Choice, big upset winner last week, and Lather Up. It's just been an absolute monster for Team Teague. And yeah, pretty good 10-horse field here, and you could certainly go a lot of different ways here if you're willing to try to beat Lather Up. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Most of these horses come out of the Canadian Pacing Derby from last week. That one was won by Courtly Choice, where he ran down Lather Up with a strong rally, and we're looking at it here, and this is done well coming after Lather Up, who tends to stop a little bit on the turns.
Yeah, we've discussed how he's a little erratic, and especially, obviously this is a big track, but we've seen on smaller tracks, on 5A's track, which he's going to be out tonight, it's almost like he forgets to pace the turns sometimes, and then he remembers who he is, and he picks it up again in the stretch. This is why I'm nervous and apprehensive about betting Lather Up, especially at a short price. I don't think he's going to be a ridiculously short price, but probably deserves to be the favorite here. We saw the Dan Patch at Hoosier Park, which is a style of race you almost never see, where it looked like he packed it in because he was slowing down the turn, and he came back and blew by and won easily.
Worth noting in that replay also was that McWicked, David Miller came out, then he went back in, and then he was locked in. He had nowhere to go. So obviously McWicked would have finished a little bit better than, I'm looking at it, 6th he finished. He would have finished a little bit better if he had some room in the stretch.
That's kind of why the reason why I like him here, because clearly this is a much better spot moving into post 2. I think you can kind of draw a line through that race, and his prior efforts have been solid. He won the Roll with Joe easily. You saw the effort in the Dan Patch where he it almost looked like a brush and crush over Lather Up, and it wasn't meant to be, but he's still a solid second at 47 and change. I don't see him losing any sharpness off that race last week. Maybe, if anything else, he's more apt to do even sharper tonight after not being able to flex his muscles last week in the Canadian Pacing Derby. You got this Brian Sears guy back driving. Dave Miller subbed last week with Brian Sears at Yonkers. I think it's all systems go tonight at a what won't be that bad of a price, I don't think, for the 2-post.
What's going to be interesting here in this race, one of the stories we have running in the newsletter this week is on This Is the Plan, and Ron Burke talking how they're not letting anyone go this week. Lather Up's not getting to the top this week. He doesn't want a horse stopping in his face. It's happened too many times. So if This Is the Plan has the plan with Yannick Gingras going to the front and not looking back, where does that put Lather Up? Is Lather Up trying to close from 8th, or is Lather Up parked the mile? Or
this is why I think it's a good week to try to beat him. I mean, we have Jimmy Freight, which we didn't even touch on from the rail. Just always been drawing poorly for most of the season. Finally draws inside. I don't know, it might be a little tricky leaving from the rail on a 5A's track like Scioto Downs, but still, you got to figure he's going fast. You have Western Fame you can show speed. You have This Is the Plan. Or basically, they said, yeah, we're gunning. Lather Up, like I said, I don't know where that leaves him in this spot, which is, again, one of the reasons why I'm going to try to beat him, because I just don't know what the trip is going to be with a horse that has had some problems on the turns, especially on smaller tracks. And like I mentioned in a prior video, once I get that in my head of a pacer that maybe can't pace a turn or throw in funky steps or something of the like, it just makes me nervous. It's like I almost never forget that. So if anything, my main focus here is beating Lather Up, and I have a feeling that he won't be that heavy of a favorite because I have a feeling other people are going to maybe look in the same direction also.
I'm going to try and beat him as well, and we're going to roll some video of another race, the Great Northeast Open here. And the horse I'm going to try and beat him with is Buried on the Rail, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th on the rail, I believe he is, with Vic Kirby driving. He's going to angle in the stretch, and that's the 3 in this race. I think he was the 4 in that race. Don't Tell Me Again. You're going to see him charging on the screen late here. Going to get up for a small piece. This is a horse that had some issues, finally got back to racing, has a few starts under his belt, completely didn't try in his first start. He just went around the track, did the same thing pretty much in the row with Joe, just took it easy, charged home late. Tim Tetrick's back in the bike here. $440,000 on the line. This is probably going to be the richest race that these horses compete in the rest of the year. I mean, the Breeders' Crown is usually about $400,000. TVG is less than that. So there's no reason to think that if you're going to have a horse ready for a race, this is the race you want him ready for. There's no doubt in my mind he's as good as any horse in this race.
Well, he hails from the same connections as I guess that mare that races pretty well.
That good mare named Sharton we've heard of before.
It just, only $45,000 in the bank. I understand he's prepping well. He looks good. He's maybe peaking going to this race, but I just, and 15-1 is very juicy on the morning line. Especially with Tim Tetrick hopping back aboard. Good post, but I don't know. I need to see one more solid effort maybe put together, put in with this horse.
That's why I'm going to get the 15-1 or so, and you're going to get the 3-1 next week.
Okay, well, if I can get 3-1 on my pick, Mick Wicked here, going back to Brian Sears, going back to an inside post, I'll certainly take that.
So Matt and I are both going to try to beat the favorite lather up. I'm going to go with the 3, Don't Tell Me Again. Matt's going to go with the 2, Mick Wicked. Who knows then? Probably the 7, Courtly Choice will win again.
Yeah, well, we didn't even mention the 34-1 upside winner, Canadian Pacing Derby.
He's going to have a long way to go from that post.
But you know what?
Too many horses to pass, I think, on a 5/8.
Unfortunately, I agree, but it wouldn't shock anybody if he came back and was at least prominent late in this race.
We're going to move on to race number 12 on Monday. That is the Great Northeast Open at the Downs at Mohegan Sun Pocono. And another open field, but they didn't get the A horses here, as some of them have, as we saw, went elsewhere. But this is a pretty strong field with some nice horses. Backstreet Shadow has been strong all year.
Yeah, Backstreet Shadow got beat by Highlander, who's been pretty much a monster all year long for Jenny Beer and Richard Still driving. Backstreet Shadow's been a super 4-year-old for Ron Burke. Had won a bunch of races in a row before losing and finishing second.
You'll notice a double on the drivers up there. We did this before the driver changes were in. The morning line's actually my morning line, so hopefully I did a good job.
The DRF, the official DRF morning line,
not the official DRF track morning line. That's correct.
Which seems reasonably close. Backstreet Shadow deserves favoritism. My pick ultimately, or one of my picks here, is going to be Highlander. It deserves to be the second choice here, just based on his body of work this year.
Why don't we take a look at Highlander winning the Great Northeast Open? We saw the video before when we were looking at Don't Tell Me Again, but this is Highlander who's going to come out of the pocket, I believe, to win this one.
Yeah, he rips out of the pocket, and it was a decent third quarter, but still the leader you'd think would have more in the tank, and Highlander has just been super all year for Richard Still. Goes right on by under just moderate urging, and could he work out a similar trip here? I suppose. I don't think there's a ton of speed inside.
Really? You don't think there's a ton of speed in this field?
Listen, all these top horses can generate speed when they need to.
But Scott Rocks, Backstreet Shadow, both legitimate horses with early speed. Highlander has speed. None Better has speed. I mean...
Okay, but they're also None Better's outside. Springsteen is, as we mentioned, not one of my favorites, one of the most erratic.
But he's not the fastest horse away, so I expect him to be a little bit more lax.
The Wall, I don't think, can get away. Scott Rocks, I think, is a notch below these. Will be flashing speed, but will probably be readily yielding when a couple of horses come at him. He may end up third or something like that, which might compromise his chances. None Better, who recently moved to the Andrew Harris barn, really hasn't skipped a beat in those two starts.
He's going to have a tough time with Highlander leaving inside of him.
This is my point. You have to assume Highlander's leaving. You have to assume Backstreet Shadow's leaving. You mentioned maybe Scott Rocks is leaving. You know what? If they mix it up, I have a little circle next to another horse here that was listed, I believe, on your morning line at 10-1, and that's Rodeo Rock. Missed a little bit of time, came back with a good qualifier, didn't get involved in Open at Yonkers, but then dropped in class and was a solid second to a sharp shipper. Last week, an overnight race at Harris, Philadelphia, just brushed and crushed in 49 and change. Don't forget, this horse was a big Levy player earlier in the year. and he's rounding back into form, and I think he can go with these. I think he will be one of the off-the-pace contingents, but you know what? If they mix it up, if someone comes after Backstreet Shadow and or Highlighter and or None Better, if he's able to clear the lead, it wouldn't shock me Rodeo Rock could pounce from second or third over. I think he is sharp enough, and if I can get double digits on him, he's definitely on my tickets.
It's worth noting that this race is going at the distance of 1.25 miles, so they're going to go a little bit longer of a race here. Usually these extra distance races, 1 1/8 miles or whatever, we kind of toss it out. The extra quarter mile could make a little bit of a difference.
Oh, it absolutely makes it. It actually makes a difference. But all I think is that there might just be instead of maybe the second quarter with not a lot of movement, there may be 2 splits with not a lot of movement, and these horses are classy and professional enough with the extra quarters not going to bother them at all, and I think it'll still be a decent final split coming home. I don't see that affecting the outcome of this race or really changing driver strategies a whole lot during this race. But yeah, it is interesting. Like you said, 1/16 we see, 1.1/8. Especially like at the Meadowlands, okay, there's a little more run into the first turn, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, this is a big difference because you're going an extra turn now in a 5/8 track, but
makes it more into a half-mile race than some aspects. I went with number 1 Springsteen here. I'm taking a shot. Taking a shot. I mean, listen.
You gave me the look of death when I went.
You never know what you're going to get with this horse sometimes.
I know that. That's why I just can't.
He did build up his confidence a lot. He won 3 overnight races. Last week, he really had no shot. It's kind of a throwout line in my eyes. I see this field as having quite a bit of speed. I see the extra distance as something that maybe benefits this horse. He could wait a little bit longer, and I'm going to take a chance, and I got to get at least 3-1 though. If it's less than 3-1, there's
3-1. I think you're getting more than 3-1.
I'm saying that's my minimum price on that horse would be 3-1.
I would make him like 8-1.
It's still Rene Allard and Simon Allard at Pocono on a horse that does well at this track.
He just flops more. I mean, remember we were talking after his Ben Franklin elimination, which was the last major stakes race he was in at Pocono. Oh, you couldn't wait to follow him in the final, and blah 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 blah, and he just offered up nothing in the $500,000 final, and this is why I might need double digits. I mean, if you're willing to take 3-1 on him, so be it. I just think
that's my absolute minimum price. I mean, I want more, but that's the absolute minimum that I can consider taking. But I go Springsteen. Matt's going to take a shot with Rodeo Rock, I believe.
Highlighter, in theory, is my top choice. Rodeo Rock, if the price is juicy enough, which it may well be, will definitely be on all of my tickets, and even on some of my tickets on top, without a doubt. I think he's sharp enough and classy enough and proven enough that with a trip, he can be motoring home at a good price.
Well, that's the Harness Spotlight on a great weekend of racing in the harness world. I mean, the Great Northeast opens on Monday. We start on Saturday at Scioto Downs with the Ewart, and they also have the Charlie Hill.
Big trotters.
With nice trotters with Atlanta. Guardian Angel Oz is in that race as well. And then next week, I think we'll come back and talk about some New York Sire Stakes Night of Champions at Batavia. Good luck.